In this Discord inspired tutorial, we're going to be making this simple scrolling text background effect. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need to do is get into Fusion. To get into Fusion, you come to your effects library, make sure your effects library is turned on, go to effects, and at the very top you've got Fusion composition. Click and drag this into your timeline. You can make this Fusion composition any length you want. For the time being, we'll leave it at the default 5 seconds. So make sure your playhead's over the clip, come to the bottom of the screen and click the magic wand Fusion button, and this will take you into Fusion. Once you're in Fusion, initially all you've got is your media out. The media out node is what sends everything you make back to the timeline so it can be seen. So for this effect, we're going to need a text node. You can find your text node on your hotbar here. Click and just drag it in to your node window at the bottom. Select your node, come to your inspector. If your inspector's not on, you can toggle it at the top here and put in your text. Sort out your font. I'm using a font called Poppins, which I'm sure you can get off the internet somewhere. And I'm going to make it black and italic, which makes it nice and chunky, like so. So the first thing we need to do is position our text. Now with your mouse over your viewer, if you scroll your mouse wheel, it'll just scroll it up and down, just so that you can actually see the top of the frame. So come to your inspector, come to H anchor and click the first icon, which will anchor your text on this left edge. You can now come to the viewer and hover your mouse over the arrows and square until it turns white, click, and then you can drag it. We also need to change the size of this text. To do that, you come here to the size control and just crank it up. You're looking to have your text about a third of the screen, and then we can position it like so. Now the next element is the outline text. To get the outline text, we're going to make what's called an instance copy of our text node. So select your text node, press Control or Command and C to copy it. Click away and then press Shift, Control or Command and V to paste an instance. You know you've got an instance copy because you have this green line between them, and you also have all these green boxes in the inspector. An instance copy is an identical copy of your original, and all the controls are linked, so any changes made to one will affect the other. If you come to the top of the screen here, you can see this icon that switches between 1 and 2 views. So I'm going to do 2 views for a minute, and I'm going to put my instance copy into the second viewer. Now any changes made to one will be made to the other, like so. If you want any controls to work independently in your instance copy, then you need to de-instance them. So we'll do that now. Select your instance copy of your text, come to the inspector, go to the shading tab, and come down to where it says appearance. If you right click on the word appearance and go down to de-instance and check that, now this appearance control is independent between the two texts. So I can now select my instance and make it an outline, like so. Next, we're going to merge the two texts together. To do that, we're going to take the output of the first text, which is this little grey box, click and hold and pull, and you get this line. If you drop that onto the box of the second text, this creates a merge node. Merge nodes are important. in that you need to be aware of which element is going into which input. On a merge node, the green input is always the foreground, whatever's on top, if you like, and the yellow input is always the background or whatever's underneath. So if we view our merge node, at the minute, our solid text is above our outline text. So we need to move our outline text down a little bit. So again, we need to de-instance some controls. To do that, come to your instance node, go to layout, come to center, and you can see it's got green boxes around it at the minute because the two texts are linked. Right click on center, de-instance, the green boxes go away, so you know that we can now move the center of each text independently. So with your instance node selected, come to your inspector, come to your viewer, and if you grab the little arrow that was pointing up and then drag down, that will constrain the movements to just up and down. You can't go side to side. And we're going to place it somewhere around about there. We'll have to tweak all these bits later on as we're building. So now we've got our two first words and we need to copy those or duplicate them. Now we could make lots of text nodes, but that's kind of inefficient. What we're going to do is use what's called a duplicate node. So if we just make a bit of space, select your initial text node, press Shift and Space Bar, and this brings up this select tool dialog, and type duplicate. And we want this duplicate node here with the little square thing next to it. So click it, click add. And now this has added our duplicate node into the flow. Because we had the text selected when we did this, it automatically connects. If for some reason it doesn't automatically connect, if you press and hold the Shift key and then move the node over the line, you see the line changes color. When the line changes color, just let go of your mouse and that will automatically connect it for you. Okay, in our duplicate node, again, come to the inspector and we're going to have 3 copies. And what we're going to do is we're going to offset the center X value. So you can either click and drag in the value box, or you can grab hold of the little arrow in the viewer and we're just going to pull it out so that the 3 words sort of span across roughly equally on the screen, like so. Now we need to do the same with our outline text. We've already got it set up so we can make a copy of this duplicate node. So again, select your duplicate node, Control C to copy. Now if you select your instance of your text and then do Control and V to paste, again it will automatically connect it in. And we have both sets of text. Now to get copies down the screen, we're again going to use a duplicate node, but this time we're going to put it after the merge. So come to your merge node, Shift Space Bar, duplicate. And if we view this duplicate, again we will make 3 copies. But this time we're going to offset the Y value. So we're going to bring them down like so. As it happens, a nice size there, that's balanced out quite well, but you may need to sort of tweak your text size or your offsets and stuff, but that seems to have worked quite well. So we'll go back to single viewer for a minute. So that's your basic sort of layout. What you need to do now is get it moving. And to get it moving, we're going to use transform nodes. The transform node is available here in the hotbar. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on our first duplicate node and then we're going to come to the hotbar and click the transform node, and that will place our transform node into the flow. Again, it automatically connects, but if it doesn't, use the shift key and drag to connect it. We're going to use our transform node to move the text along like so. But rather than animate the start and the end of the comp, I'm just going to set it in motion, and then we'll use the spline editor to make it move indefinitely. So if you come to this numbered ribbon in the middle, this is all your frame numbers. And if you click anywhere in there, the red line, which is your playhead, jumps to your mouse pointer. We're going to click and drag it all the way to the left till it sits at frame 0 here. You can see you're on frame 0 by looking at this number. And whilst you're at frame 0, we're going to set a keyframe on the center value. To set a keyframe, come into your inspector, and where you've got these grey diamonds, click the center one. It turns red to say that you've now set a keyframe at frame 0 with your text looking as it does. Now if you come forward to frame 5, and we're going to change the center X value to 5.1. You can play around with these values. This is just going to determine how fast the text scrolls across the screen. I found 5.1 gave a reasonable speed. So now what happens is between frame 0 and frame 5, your text moves a little bit over. Now what we want is for that to carry on moving over. To do that, we're going to select our transform node. We're going to come to the top of the screen and find spline and click that button. This opens the spline editor. And this lists all the nodes that have got keyframes on. At the minute, it's just the one transform node. You need to come and check transform. And you see your 2 keyframes. If you don't see keyframes like this, come to this button here, which is zoom to fit. And it just puts all your keyframes into the window. Click one somewhere in this window and hit Control and A. That will select both of your keyframes. And now if you come to the bottom of the spline window, you've got this list or line of icons. And you want this icon here that says Set Relative. Click that. What that does is it makes the animation continue indefinitely in the direction and at the speed it was going at. So now when we hit play, our text will continue to scroll even though we only keyframed at frame 5. Now the obvious difficulty we've got here is the text is slowly sliding off the screen and there's nothing behind it. To get the words to appear behind it, again with your transform selected, come to the inspector to where it says edges and change canvas to wrap. And now the text will continue to scroll and will replace itself as it goes. Now we're going to do exactly the same with the other text, except we're going to make it slide to the other direction. So again, select the second duplicate node, come to your hotbar and click on the transform node. Come back to frame 0, and with this transform selected, keyframe center, and then go forward to frame 5. And this time we're going to make the center X 0.49. So it's going in the opposite direction. Again, come to your spline editor, hit zoom to fit, click Control A and set relative. So now one text goes left, one text goes right. Again, with our outline text, we need to put the transform to wrap. So select your transform, come to edges, canvas, wrap. We can now close the spline editor. Make sure that our second duplicate or third duplicate node as it is connected to media out, otherwise you won't see anything on the timeline. And that is your basic scrolling text. Now, I did a couple of things to just jazz it up a little bit. The first one was to set it against a background. So again, come to your hotbar in the middle. At the very left hand edge, you've got background. Click and just drag this in to your node tree. Disconnect the pipe to the media out by clicking on the blue part. Take the output from the duplicate and drop it onto the output of the background. This will create a merge node with our duplicate or our text on top and the background underneath. Connect this merge back to the media out. Now if we select our background, I've just realized I'm firing things into the viewer and you maybe don't know how to do that. If you want to view any node, all you need to do is select it and click and drag it into the viewer. Or if you've got both views open, you can select the node and hit either 1 or 2 on the keyboard to put it in either the left or right viewer. So we'll put media out back into our right viewer. We'll select the background and we'll put that into our left viewer. The background we can jazz up a bit. You can change the color. You can do all sorts of funky things to it. What I'm going to do is make it a gradient. So if you select where it says type and change it to gradient, change the gradient type to radial. Now you can grab these little end points. They're quite fiddly sometimes, but you can then move them like so, and then you can change the colors by clicking on these two arrows. Whichever one is white is the current selected color, and then we can make this whatever color we want. Oop, that's the alpha, didn't want that one, wanted that one. And then we can select the other one and we can make that maybe somewhere around there. Play around, get the look you want. The other thing I did in the example was I changed the text. So we can come to our original text node, go to shading, and we can change the color of our text like so. Now, because our instance text colors are still linked, then whatever color we make the solid text will happen to the outline text. The other thing I did was add a shadow. To add a shadow to your text, again, select your main text, still in the shading tab, select elements, pick number 3, and then click enable. Now what you notice is that you get a drop shadow on your text, which is lovely, but you get horrible shadows in your outline text. So we need to change that in our instance text. So to do that, come to your instance text, select it, go to the shading tab. We're on element 3 already. Again, come to appearance, right click, de-instance, and then change to outline. So your shadow now becomes an outline rather than solid. And that is pretty much it. Make sure, as I said, that your last node is connected to the media out. You can now come back to the edit tab and you have your scrolling text. like so. Now at the minute this is only 5 seconds, but it doesn't matter how long it is. If you right click, change clip duration, you can make it 15 seconds and it will still continue to play. And because of the way we set the animation up, text will scroll indefinitely. So yeah, that's basically it. Hope it helped, hope it was useful to you. Please feel free to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell, and we'll catch you on the next one.